Welcome back to Focus Today, and it's been a while, but a delight and an honor to have back with us our good friend Abe Hamilton III. He's the Public Policy Analyst for American Family Association, one of the great organizations out there, AFA.net. Boy, I can't say enough for what they do and the services that they provide. Abe, good to see you, man. How are you?
Good to see you, Perry. How are you?
Doing great. Been a while. You guys have been busy.
I'm sorry, I lost you for a second there.
Okay, I said you guys have been very busy. Got me now?
Are you there? Yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
Good to see you. Hey, listen, a lot to talk to you about. First of all, give me
I don't know what's going on.
We don't
have.
Are
you there?
I can hear you.
Okay, I can hear you. I'm here.
There we are. Let's get some updates. First of all, give us an update on the Target boycott. How's that going?
Well, the Target boycott, I believe that's what you just asked me. The Target boycott is going very well. We're approaching 1.5 million signers who are basically standing with us and standing against the absolute ridiculousness that is corporate attempted bullying, or should I say corporate attempts to compel the American people to embrace this radical sexual deviancy agenda. Uh-oh. Don't know what happened here.
All right. I'll tell you what, let's take a quick break. We'll get him reconnected. And let me encourage you to go to AFA.net and you can connect with the American Family Association there. We'll get reconnected because Abe's got a lot to share with us. Again, AFA.net. They are a great resource. Check them out. We'll get reconnected with him. We'll be right back.
I'm Paulina Leiser, producer of Focus Today. Thank you for watching this video, and make sure to check our other videos at theDove.us.
Welcome back to Focus Today, and delighted to have back with us our good friend Abe Hamilton III, Public Policy Analysis for the American Family Association, and a great organization just doing all kinds of good things. And their website really is a terrific resource. It's called AFA.net. You may want to check it out and support them. They are a faith-based organization. I think we got you back, Abe. Good to see you, man.
Good to be back, Perry. Always good to be with you.
All right. Well, listen, let's go back to Target just for a moment. Those who don't know, AFA took a position quite some time ago when they came out with the gender-neutral bathroom policy. And you've now had over 1.5 million people sign that petition?
Well, last I checked, we were approaching 1.5 million. It may have ticked up even more since the last check I made this morning, because the American people, regardless of where you come from, you recognize the absolute lunacy of risking the safety of women and girls in an effort to advance a politically correct hat tip to the sexual deviancy community. So the American people have responded in large numbers, and we've seen a precipitous drop in the stock price for the Target Corporation from the time we launched our boycott effort in April of last year until where we are today.
They seem to be pretty defiant, sticking with it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they appear to be committed to seeing their company continuously lose money for whatever reason. They've had plans to add different features to try to keep up with the ever-changing climate in the retail industry, but they've had to jettison those plans because they're consistently losing money. But nevertheless, they seem committed, which lets you know that it's an ideological position and has nothing to do with with conducting business and serving the American people.
All right, for those of you who have not participated in that and you want to check out signing the petition, again, go to AFA.net. Hey, Abe, when's the last time you saw a First Lady get up and give the Lord's Prayer?
Since February 14th. No, never saw that before. What an amazing phenomenon that we've all as a country have been able to witness, where you see consistent and repeated overtures made by the president's administration, most recently by his wife, the First Lady of the United States of America, reading from the Bible, leading the country at the Melbourne, Florida rally in the Lord's Prayer. What an amazing sight.
Well, she did it, immediately followed by incredible criticism on social media by the left on her giving the Lord's Prayer, which is actually the words of Jesus, and because of her accent. I mean, I cannot believe something as innocent, as simple as that would receive such criticism. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I just think it's another example of the absolute hypocrisy that's prevalent in secular, progressive, and leftist ideology. Because if that had been a progressive, a leftist giving the Lord's Prayer, or any speech being presented with an accent, if anybody commented in a negative fashion concerning that, you would be considered immediately xenophobic, anti-immigrant, and absolutely bigoted. But because it's President Trump's wife, and because she's reading from the Bible, these people have no problem with criticizing her because of her accent. And it's amazing because she speaks, 5 or 6 different languages. English is one of the many that she speaks. And she chose to speak in the language of the American people, praying, which is commonly referred to as the Lord's Prayer, is really the disciples' prayer, because it's one that Jesus told us who are Christ's followers to pray. But leading our nation in prayer in that fashion, it's amazing hypocrisy on display.
All right. Now, let's look into this a little bit closer. You have the First Lady giving the Lord's Prayer. It's the words of Jesus instructing his disciples how to pray. So it's clearly a Christian prayer, no question about it. It does give us an insight of who she may be and where she's coming from. That may give us an insight as a husband and wife relationship that her husband, the President of the United States, will protect her belief, which could result in more religious liberties and freedoms in America. What do you think?
Well, I can tell you this much. I absolutely hope so. We've had consistent references on the campaign trail from candidate Donald Trump about his commitment to protecting religious liberty, followed by his commitments as President Donald Trump, even as recently as the National Prayer Breakfast, where he's pledged to protect religious liberty. And so, as you know, and we may get to this later, we've also launched a petition at AFA.net calling on the American people to affix their names to this petition, which has over 124,000 people who've signed, that our President Tim Wildman plans to deliver in person to the White House, calling on him to, one, pass an executive order protecting religious liberty. And we also plan to continue to appeal to our president to go even further to support legislation to protect religious liberty, because the very fulcrum of freedom in America is religious liberty. Wherever religious liberty is imperiled, the rest of the liberties are sure to follow.
Okay, I want to go there. First of all, this is another petition you can go to, friends, there at afa.net and sign it. What about the repeal of the Johnson Amendment? Isn't that the beginning?
I think that is a good move. And I think the president is keenly aware of the intimidation that follows in lots of America's pulpits because of the Johnson Amendment. And just in case I'm sure your viewers are keenly familiar with the Johnson Amendment, but it's just simply an amendment passed by former Senator Lyndon Baines Johnson after he became president that prohibited basic churches from speaking negatively concerning campaigns, because he had a difficult time getting support from churches when he ran for president. And so there are lots of churches and pastors who seem intimidated to speak on the issues of the day from the Bible out of fear of losing their tax-exempt status. So I think the repeal of the Johnson Amendment would be a good move, but the facts are there has never been a church in America, in the history of America, since the Johnson Amendment was made law, that suffered having its 501c3 status revoked due to violating the Johnson Amendment. In fact, I'm pretty sure Alliance Defending Freedom leads this initiative called Pulpit Freedom Sundays every year, to where you have churches and pastors who preach election sermons and political sermons and put copies of them in the mail to the IRS. Because it's an example of the fact that the IRS is aware that should they attempt to act on the Johnson Amendment, they would have a huge First Amendment legal battle on their hands. So I think it's a good step in the right direction. My hope and my prayer is that President Trump will, one, understand the centrality that religious liberty plays to our nation, two, to also understand that religious freedom and the sexual deviancy agenda are on a collision course. They are ideologically mutually exclusive. So you won't be able to advance the sexual deviancy agenda without trampling simultaneously on religious liberty. I think the more that comes into focus for our president, my prayer and my hope is that he will see that and he will fall on the right side of our Constitution and the people of faith in the American community.
Well, Abe, that is beautifully said. Part of that, we've seen two things here. First of all, we've never seen a repression of a Jesse Jackson or an Al Sharpton crossing over the Johnson Amendment and violating it, and nothing's ever come of that. But in Texas, as you know, in Houston, it came really close when they had a mayor down there going after the pastors and requesting their sermons on the transgender sexual issue. That came pretty close, but that got overturned, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And it got overturned by the people in Houston, because following Anise Parker is her name. She was the mayor of Houston then when this all happened. She was an out and proud lesbian mayor. And because she got flack from the church in Houston, she literally extracted sermons and recordings from churches and pastors in an effort to try to squelch them and to scuttle them from dialogue in the public square. Well, the people of Houston rose up and they were able to pass a referendum in the city of Houston, a local municipal ordinance, to overturn the attempted confiscation of the pastor's sermons by that mayor. And thankfully, she was then gently nudged out of office, and she's now replaced with a new mayor in Houston. So I'm grateful for that. So it did come interestingly close, and I think that underscores the reality of what we're facing. I know you're keenly aware two things happened, and I think this is one of the things that sent President Trump over the line in terms of the vote, because the American people were aware that Hillary Clinton gave a speech to the Women of the World's Forum, sponsored by the United Nations, where she said, where religious liberty comes into conflict with public policy, people with well-held religious beliefs will have to change what they believe. Then you have that follow. The United States Commission on Civil Rights issued a 300-page document that basically outlined a legal playbook to show wherever civil rights, which is code speech for the sexual deviancy agenda, because they're referring to the modern iteration of civil rights, wherever they come into conflict with religious liberty as protected by the First Amendment, civil rights must win. So these things were on the minds of the American people when we participated in what I call the largest protest in recent memory, which occurred November 8th in the ballot booths, when we said, listen, we're not willing to check our faith at the door in order to participate in civil society. So again, I'm praying and hoping that President Trump recognizes this and sees that he needs to fall on the right side of the Constitution and the people of faith in America.
All right, AFA, again, is sponsoring another petition that will be hand-delivered to the president by Tim Wilden, the president of AFA, and it is to advance religious liberties. You can go to afa.net and sign that petition. So what is exactly is this petition say that you want the president to do?
Well, this immediate petition refers to there was a draft of an executive order that unfortunately was leaked to the national media that literally unfolded the totality of protecting people of faith concerning abortion rights, people who believe that a baby is a baby, whether they're inside the womb or outside of the womb, and because it is a human life made in the image of God, it should be protected. The executive order basically included, the draft executive order, I should say, included verbiage that reflected the First Amendment Defense Act that would do exactly that. It would prevent, for example, Barronelle Stutzman, Aaron and Melissa Klein, Coach Joe Kennedy, Dr. Eric Walsh, Fire Chief Kelvin Cochran, and many, many others from having their views of marriage that are biblically based serve as a means for jettisoning the people from the public square. And in Barronelle Stutzman's case, in the Klein's case, having them sued and loss in the Klein's example, and in Barronelle Stutzman's case, the risk of loss of her entire life savings and her personal home. So that was included in the executive order. And so our encouragement with this petition is to get President Trump to make good on his promises to protect religious liberty by signing this executive order. A draft was leaked. It appeared to be a completed order, one that had been thought through, that includes all of the protections that, once again, would build on the promises to repeal the Johnson Amendment. Then you would have this executive order leading the country in the right direction, reversing the 8 years of absolute torrent presented by President Barack Obama, which would lead the way for the full-throated push for legislation passed by this Congress for the First Amendment Defense Act. So the petition specifically calls on the president to sign that draft executive order that the media and now all the American people have seen.
All right. So it's important that our viewers and listeners check it out. Go to afa.net. Let me take a quick break. We come back. We got a lot more to talk about. Abe Hamilton III is with us. The third. Boy, you don't hear that very often. So is your grandfather and father still alive?
Yes, they both are. They both are still alive. I am the third Abraham.
Do you have a fourth?
I don't have a fourth, but I do have two sons myself.
God bless you. All right, we'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. It is always a delight and an honor to have with us Abe Hamilton III. He's the Public Policy Analyst for American Family Association, and I just really so appreciate what this organization stands for, what they do, and what they've been doing through the years. Go to AFA.net. You can sign 2 petitions there, one on the Target boycott, and the other one now gathering signatures to ask the president to advance religious liberties. And this one will be hand-carried by the president of AFA, Tim Wildman, to the White House. So go to AFA.net and sign that. Okay, Abe, over the weekend we lost McCorvey. She was obviously central in the Roe versus Wade argument. It's a loss. Her conversion was a great conversion. But you know what's interesting about this whole thing is, it appears to me that the Johnson Amendment really held down churches from speaking out against abortion. There was this fear of separation of church and state. You know the drill, you know the myth, you know all of that stuff. The combination of all of this, if the Johnson Amendment truly is repealed and done away with, do you think the churches will still feel reserved in talking about issues like the life issue?
Well, Perry, that's a good question, and my hope would be no, but if recent history is any indicator, my hope may not be well-founded, and I'll tell you why. When we were at the Values Voters Summit last year, just in September of last year, George Barna presented some research that was chilling, in my estimation. First and foremost, he indicated that amongst Christians in America, only about 9% of Christians have a biblical worldview. Then he expanded from that and went further and explained that the overwhelming majority of Christian pastors in America believe that the Bible answers all of the issues of our day, including the political issues of our day, but a very, very small fraction actually preaches those truths to their people. And I do believe that the Johnson Amendment, with the legal prohibitions, or should I say the legal intimidation tactics that are employed based on the Johnson Amendment, do keep a lot of America's pastors from preaching God's truth on these issues like abortion. But I also think pragmatism, political correctness, and quite frankly, the desire to have larger and larger crowds oftentimes trumps the willingness of some of America's pastors to preach God's truths on which some people may consider controversial topics. And I think part of the problem that really hinders American people, if we think just because a politician speaks on biblical issues, that it changes the nature of the issue from biblical to being political. While I encourage pastors to say, listen, just because a politician may discuss an issue that's biblical doesn't make it a political issue.
Right.
When we're talking about the image of God as conveyed in human bodies, in people, we're not talking politics, we're talking theology. And so my hope and prayer is that the repeal of the Johnson Amendment would thrust America's pastors into the forefront and using the Word of God and be lit by the fire of the Holy Spirit to preach God's truth for the issues that are prevalent in our day.
Very well said. You know, let me be very selective here just for a moment. And I know the president's got a lot of challenges, and he's dealing a lot with travel bans and immigration and the economy and all that. And they're all important, don't get me wrong. And I really don't know how I would prioritize them. But that said, it would seem to me, spiritually, if the president would go ahead and take a bold step in religious freedom and liberties that would include defunding Planned Parenthood, sending a direct message that the culture of death in this country is now coming to an end. We're going to kill death. How's that? And put the life of the unborn front and center. That the Lord would pour out a blessing upon him, this administration, this country, unlike anything we've ever seen. Your thoughts?
Perry, I couldn't agree with you more. The Bible teaches us that righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. I've explained, and whenever I get the opportunity in many places, it's not that as Christians we become one-issue voters. Because I'm a Christian, I believe in the sanctity of human life. I believe in the biblical teachings on human sexuality. Doesn't mean I don't understand that we need a Treasury Secretary. Doesn't mean I don't understand the influence of the Federal Reserve in our economy. But I know for a fact, as the Bible tells us, for example, in 2 Chronicles chapter 7, when the heavens be shut up as brass, and understanding the biblical import of that, Israel at the time was an agrarian society. They farmed, they had animals, they needed water to provide irrigation for the economic stability of their country. The heavens being shut up as brass was a direct impact on the economy of the nation of Israel. And the Lord knew that if I couldn't get their attention directly, I can get their attention through their pocketbooks. Well, that is attributable to what goes on today. I believe, just as you led in with this question, that if we would make a bold stand and show the Lord and to show the American people that we are going to stand on God's word and God's principles concerning the unborn, for example, and resist and oppose the government-sanctioned and funded shedding of innocent blood, that would put us on a more solid divine footing to beckon the blessings of our Lord that would militate to and impact our economic situations.
Well, I've been praying that the president, I know he's got a lot of issues on his table, but if he would step over and fulfill this campaign promise first, I think he would be amazed. It would be a witness to him of the supremacy of God in this nation if he would restore the protection of human life.
I agree with you. And with him being convinced of that reality, I think it would be one of the greatest things he could do for his presidency, because ultimately the American people like results. And when you're able to move from rhetoric and promises to the results impacting our country, you would see the people coalesce around him like never before.
Yeah.
I think you have the progressives who see that their darling and pet projects are in jeopardy, so they're nipping at his heels at every moment that he could. But if, as you suggested, if he would take a bold stance and stand on the Lord's side and oppose the shedding of innocent blood, that he would be well positioned to carry our nation forward and beckon the blessings and prosperity of God for our futures.
I say all that to say, to go back to your petition that you guys have put together on the website there to advance religious liberties and freedom in this country. Again, inform us of that, because I would like to hope that our part of the country, where the Dove reaches in the Pacific Northwest, that the believers would come to your website and sign that petition, because that could help catapult the very thing we just talked about.
Absolutely. One of the things that we've all noticed, this is no secret, that the president is responsive to, is crowd sizes, so to speak. So if he could see that the Christian community in America, we didn't just participate in the election on November 8th. We voted then, but we're watching now. And so our goal is to carry as broad a number as possible in signatories to our petition to the White House, so we can show the president, listen, that there are lots of Christians who rally behind you. When you consider people who are opposing you now, like the sexual deviancy agenda proponents and those who are pro-murder in the womb, those are not the people who supported the president on November 8th. So when he can see that we're still here, we are still watching, and we expect him to come through on his promises, we believe that that would be an effective tool in getting the president to respond to what's going on in the country. And as you said, once he steps over and sees that, for example, the issue of abortion, I think he would be able to recognize that how when we stand for God, God stands up for us.
Well, I can't agree with you more. Let me just say to our viewers and listeners again, do your part. Go to the AFA.net website, check out this petition. And if you feel that, please sign it. And then tell others, tell your friends and families, others to sign this petition. I'd like to see 1 million, 2 million people on this signature petition, so that when President Tim Wildman takes it to the president, it is a huge message to the president. Fulfill this one. Now, we know, people of believers, we know that if he would step out and take care of this one first, he would be surprised how everything else will fall into place. And that is not to de-emphasize the economy or immigration or any of those issues. But I think if we put God first, God will begin to open the doors of heaven in behalf of our country. Hey, Abe, it's good to see you, my friend. Are you going to be at the NRB?
I will. I was just thinking that. I hope I get to see you there in person, shake your hand. I'll have my wife and my children with me, so I'm looking forward to it, and I hope I get to meet you there. Are you going to be there?
Yeah, I'll be there. I'll grab you.
All right. All right. Sounds good.
All right. Blessings on you, brother. Thanks for everything you do. All right. Go to the website.
God bless you.
You too. All right. AFA.net. That's the website. AFA.net. Go there and sign both petitions. We'll see you next time on Focus Today, but let me emphasize again, go to that website, AFA.net, and sign that petition. All right. We'll see you next time on Focus Today.